Hello, Kyle. Thank you so much for joining us today. So we kind of shared a little bit of our background when we started. How about you share yours?
Absolutely. So my name is Kyle Barber. I am tenured faculty, and I am also the program chair of 3 departments here at Bellevue College. I'm the chair of marketing, I'm the chair of data analytics, and I'm also the chair of digital media arts. And I've been teaching here at Bellevue for 7 years. Prior to that, I worked most of my adult career in the marketing field. Specifically, I worked at large ad agencies in New York City. I grew up here in Seattle, but after I finished graduate school, I went out to New York. I just thought it'd be very exciting, and I was right. It was exciting. I had no experience in marketing. My undergraduate and graduate degree were in communication. I was really involved in debate, and that paid for graduate school, being on the debate team and then coaching the debate team. And I just, I really loved communication. I always thought it was kind of like, it's psychology, but it's much more practical, understanding why do people say what they say, what do they really mean, what are they, and just trying to understand hidden messages in people's communication. I think being able to read the room was a good way to get ahead. So I think I'm really lucky I had that foundational skills. I also, having grown up in the Seattle area, my first part-time job I had was like working for Microsoft or a vendor of Microsoft, like checking serial codes to make sure people qualified for support. And while working there, I taught myself a lot of technical skills. I learned SQL. I learned a little bit about just how relational databases are created. Just even a little basic knowledge back in the 90s was enough to really open up a lot of doors for me in doing some part-time work when I got to New York. I just thought I would go and just go to a temp agency and say, hey, I'll do any kind of work I can get. I just need some money. But saying that I know a little bit of SQL was amazing. I was able to make $20 to $25 an hour. And, back in the mid-90s, that was some pretty good salary for somebody who just graduated, and I was very, very excited. And I did a number of things. I did technical training. I managed a help desk for a record label. I did technical documentation where I would write, decks for software companies and their software programs. And I just did a number of odds and ends. I did data entry jobs. But the key thing was I had a lot of data skills, and I went to another agency and said, okay, I've been at this job for about a year and a half, and I think I can make more money. And they said, yeah, we think so too. And they said, what do you think about marketing? I'm like, well, I really know nothing about marketing. They said, yeah, but you know data, you know all about how to collect data, and marketing. They do every time they send something out, if they're trying to do a direct campaign, they want responses. They got to measure how many people actually responded. And so there's a lot of database work. They need people that can make sense of that data. I said, okay, I'll come in and try it. And I'd always been really interested in keeping up with current tech stuff. So when the internet first came out, I shouldn't say when it first came, but when it first became publicly available, when Netscape was first introduced as a web browser. I remember the day, when we first started, when Google first went live. And no one thought, like, what's this weird thing? It was a really interesting time to be in graduate school, right when the internet was just beginning to become something tangible for the general consumer. So I had this interest in the internet. And so when I went to go work at my first ad agency, I realized, oh my gosh, not only do they have a lot of data, but there's so much more potential for growth. So at that point, I made this kind of mind shift. I'm still going to do data work, but I'm going to become a subject matter expert in marketing because I realized I could make serious coin, and this is the way to go. And I was right. I kept climbing up my ranks, and I was making, by the time I finished as a senior vice president, I was making about 250,000 a year as my base salary. And, that was about a decade ago. And so it was really good money, and it allowed me to, pay off my house here in Seattle. But I was conflicted because I had a house in Seattle and I was paying rent in Manhattan, which is very expensive. And I needed to make a choice about whether I was going to sell that house and commit to being in New York, or I was going to come back and be near my family. And I made that choice thinking I'd go work at Amazon because with my data background, my marketing background, I knew I had the skills that they needed. But I was also nervous about how I was kind of giving away my life. My job was my life, and I worked about a 55-hour work week every week. And I never really had that time to disconnect. I never really had time to find balance. And so as I was moving back, I said, I don't want to just go to Amazon and then repeat that same kind of problem where I'm putting my work before everything. So I just kind of looked at like, what are some jobs I could do for the government? This teaching job at Bellevue College was the second one that was listed. I had taught while I was a graduate student because a lot of grad students do that, but I never really thought of a career of it. But I kind of liked it. I thought, well, you can try that for a year and think about, will I find a better work-life balance if I do that? I still work too much as a teacher, too many hours, but I have more happiness. I feel like I'm making more of a difference. And my house is paid off, so that gives me a lot of financial freedom to not have to worry about making $250,000 each year. So that's kind of how I ended up shifting from being a successful marketer to moving into education. It was really more, I just wanted to move back to Seattle and I just looked for opportunities, and this just kind of fell into my lap. But I really enjoy it, and I think it's interesting to like get to interact with younger people because it keeps me on my toes. I keep learning even as old as I am because everything in marketing keeps changing. Everything with data collection and management, that keeps changing. So you can't rest on your laurels. Hopefully that gives you a good, somewhat of a background for me and how I ended up here. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Kyle.
Yeah.
So can we like maybe touch a little bit about your base knowledge in marketing? By the way, before we go forward, I don't know if it's intentional, but we started with seeing your face, but right now we don't see you. It looks like your camera is on, but we cannot see your face. Or maybe is it just me? I don't think it's just me, but we cannot see.
Oh, I can see you. I can see you.
Oh, maybe it's just me then. Okay. I'll try to.
We got to get Dimitri a faster internet connection.
That would be awesome, actually. I would love that. My birthday's coming up. That's what I need to ask for my parents.
There you go.
Okay, so I had some questions. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing your background in marketing and data analytics and how you made your life decisions towards more of a happiness rather than money. That's what this club is genuinely about. That's what we're trying to achieve, and that's what we're trying to inspire people to do. To not only think about something tangible as a reward for their job, but also thinking about their mental condition and the overall happiness they have in life. And we believe that entrepreneurship may be the answer for that. But we want to also touch some marketing skills that you have and kind of see what you can teach us today. So my first question will be, what is the most common mistake you see in the starting like rookie digital marketers or just marketers?
Okay. Yeah, that's an easy one. The most common problem I see with, in bad marketing or with marketing students who are just starting out is they want to jump straight to tactics. And when I say tactics, that's like how do we execute things? So if I'm going to build a TV ad, or I'm going to put up a billboard, or I'm going to do some banner ads, or I want to create a YouTube video that I post up, I'm already thinking like, I know I want to make a YouTube video, and I just go ahead and create the YouTube video. But I didn't do the research first. I didn't really think about what is the psychology of the consumer. Like, why would they want to watch this video? To what purpose am I making it? I didn't define objectives that are based on my research. I didn't think about a strategic framework. So as I create this video and then I do all this other marketing stuff around it, is there like connections between that? Because you want people to see your brand in a consistent way. Doing all of that kind of background work of research and understanding the framework is something that we don't see as consumers, right? We're exposed to the end product. We see the TV ad, we see the billboard, we see the YouTube video. So we understand that. We're engaging with that kind of content all day long. What we don't see is all of the hard work that to make an ad good that really resonates. How do they get to that place? And so I think that is the common mistake you see in marketing. People are trying to bypass all of that applied psychology. They're assuming that their gut feeling about what is going to work is the right thing. That's a dangerous thing, because what makes sense to us might not make sense to all consumers. And we really want to make sure that we've kind of thought intelligently about how do we connect with the target audience and make sure that they're going to end up doing the desired next step, which is either purchase the product, or maybe go visit our website, or maybe just have a positive brand association with us. And you just don't want to jump to execution. You want to kind of think about, are my assumptions rooted in reality? And get evidence, look at evidence. You want the data to prove, yes, there is a suggestion that's going to work. Because if you don't do that, guess what? Your marketing career is going to be very short. You'll get hired, and then you will blow $500,000 on a campaign that didn't work, and then you will lose your job.
Okay. Well, if that's the main problem that you see as a professor and the marketer who has probably taught some rookie marketers how to do this job, how would you structure the plan for the marketing or for the business plan? How would you do it?
That's a much more complicated question, but it's a great one. I mean, I would start by thinking, a business plan is different than a marketing plan. And there's many types of marketing plan too. So in our program here at Bellevue College, the digital marketing bachelor degree, that program is really focused on promotion. And when we think about marketing, there's generally 4 quadrants. You've got, what is the product itself? How much does the product cost? Where can I go buy the product, the distribution of it? And then the promotion, which is marketing communications. How do we let consumers know about it? Or if we're selling B2B, how do we let other businesses know this is the right partnership for you? And so I could do a promotional plan. I could do a plan that's focused on brand building. I could do plans that are more focused on introducing a new product or a product extension. And then a business plan is kind of something that's a little bit more comprehensive. And all of these things can be a little bit different in their execution, but they're all interrelated. So I would say this, the first thing that you do, no matter if you're a big company or you're like a small startup, is you have to think about, why the hell do we exist? What is our reason for existing? And you start with building a business plan around that. Just kind of understand foundationally who you are and articulate that there's a need for your business and prove there's some financial reason for this to exist. Then I would say, okay, next, if you're going to go forward with this, you got to think about, what is my brand? And then you really got to kind of figure out, what are your brand guidelines? Because before you start doing any kind of campaign work through marketing, you should know who you are and how you're differentiated from the same vertical that you're in. Why would other competitors who already do the same thing you do? You really need to have a clear point of differentiation. And then after that, then I would think about, okay, so are we really thinking about helping people understand what the product is, why they should pay the price that we're charging, how do they, get to the place of distribution? Or do we just really want to focus on just letting people know, here's why our offering is a good fit for you? And that's where most of the jobs are today in 2021, is really thinking about promotion. So that's why our program at Bellevue College is really focused on that. It's like, how do we get appropriate communications back and forth between consumer and brand that resonate? So you're going to see there's a lot of different plans along that journey. And it's a complicated thing. And so I think when you're imagining as a startup, you're like, oh my God, I don't have time to do all this. You probably don't. You have to make sure that you're going to hit the ground running, have some small wins right away to show that there is momentum. There is a reason for you to have this small business. But you have to still kind of commit to that framework over time because you're going to have very limited growth if all you're doing is just throwing out executions without doing the research of understanding, like, how do I really provide value to consumers? You know, these days we have so many choices, right? There's so much content we can consume on the internet. There's so much to look at. It's like limitless choices. Consumers know that, and it has empowered them to understand I'm not beholden to any brand. At any time, I can end that relationship and go to a different competitor. So right now, all this power is in the hands of the consumer. So if you're thinking as a business, like, well, shoot, the consumer's in control, what can I do? You don't do marketing where you just yell at them, buy our product, buy our product. You have to invite them in to have a conversation with you and say, let's talk about why we're the right fit for you. It's a lot harder to do that. But that is really ultimately what you as entrepreneurs would want to focus on, is like immediately start thinking about how do I create content that has meaningful value, something that people do want to read and will get them to cross the finish line of making that sale. Or maybe just come visit our website or watch this video to at least the halfway point so you hear the key message. That's our goal as marketers. We want to get them to kind of hit those conversions.
Awesome, thank you. So it's basically about building a stable plan, doing the research, building the framework, then understanding your customer values and providing those values to them, and really building relationships, neither just shouting at them, buy, like it was probably in the 1970s or something.
Even 10 years ago. I mean, well, even today, you still see marketers doing it wrong. People are still yelling at you. A lot of times you see local advertisements that just come down now. You only have 30 minutes left, and that kind of threat, like you have to do this or you're going to miss out. But it doesn't really resonate with younger consumers. And it's just there's a lot of older marketers that have not yet figured out that they need to think more intelligently about how consumers actually react to those ads. And they need to find more meaningful connections.
Okay, but how do we connect to them? You're saying that the marketing is constantly changing as the field, and there is always change you need to adapt to and research new strategies. What do you see is the best way to connect to consumers right now, or how do like small businesses or enterprises should connect?
Yeah, I think a big part of how you connect is you embrace the concept of relationship marketing. And what I mean by that is, in the past, a lot of companies' success was measured by how much sales did we get this quarter, or how much sales did we get for the fiscal year? Because revenue matters, right? You don't make money, you don't stay in business. But you can have a bad year and come back from that and be successful in the long run, right? We know there's some amazingly successful companies that did not start off so strong. And a big part of what they're doing is they're building into the idea like, well, what is the customer lifetime value? How do we get people to spend money with us over many years and by repeat purchases? So it's not about that one-time purchase, but we want people to come back and love us on an ongoing basis. To do that, you got to imagine what is that relationship and like what is the journey the consumer takes with the brand, and what are all the touch points along the way that matter. And then we look at it from a data perspective. Okay, if I buy into this concept, what measurement do I use at each touch point to see whether that touch point was successful? It's not just whether people bought it, but I want to see if I chose to put out, like, if I send you an email, when you get that email, does it actually provide you value? Does it make you happy you received it? Or is it just one more piece of junk that I have to hit delete on to get out of my inbox? So there's a lot of like intermediary metrics that matter that help us either get closer to, I feel really positive about the brand, or I'm feeling less than positive about the brand. And we want to keep working on building all these cumulative positive associations with the brand, because that will translate over time to repeat purchases And even more important than that, it creates loyalty and it creates evangelism. And then when people love the brand and they want to go talk about it with other people, that is worth its weight in gold. You need people having conversations about you because maybe I don't know Nada, but Dima does. And if Dima goes to Nada and says, well, I just had the most positive experience with Bellevue College, she knowing him and them having this kind of friendship, his endorsement of the brand of Bellevue College makes it seem much more meaningful, much more real. And that kind of personalized marketing is going to have a much stronger impact on actual follow through on the conversion. So that's what we really want to do, is we want to get people so excited about it, talking about things, that they organically want to go share their love about brands, because that really impacts long-term sales year over year rather than just the current year. So that's where the future is right now. We need to have campaigns that really, where people not just do the research on like the current situation, but how does this fit into our larger relationship marketing plan? And how does it ultimately improve perceptions of the brand? And how does it get people to think about talking about this to other people?
Okay, thank you, Kyle. So, can we maybe shift a little bit to the actual channels and how we can reach the consumer? We basically have some questions about some of them. So for a lot of clubs at Berkeley College, and we utilize the email channel to reach the students here. So I've noticed that probably email was a much more popular and much more effective way of reaching the consumer at the beginning of 2000s. But what do you think about the email marketing trends right now and facing 2021, 2022?
Well, I think email works. Email is a very successful channel. And a lot of people, I think the way you phrase the question, Dimitri, is interesting because it's very much of your generation. I think a lot of younger marketers will say, okay, but which channel's right? Do I need to do social? Do I do search? Am I doing email? It's not the channel. I mean, yes, some channels work better than others, and some channels work better than others for certain industries, or some channels work better for different age groups. But that's still based upon generalizations. It's based upon stereotypes. Email does work, and it doesn't seem very glamorous or sexy, right? Because I know a lot of your people say, I don't want to look at my email. Oh God, no, I don't want to do that. But email can work. And the reason that we have such a negative association with it is we get so many bad emails, right? We get so many messages we do not want to read. The key is you need to have emails that have really strong content in them. They need to have really compelling subject lines, so I actually want to open it up. There needs to be a call to action in the email that actually makes me want to take the next step and click on that. And that's hard to do. It's hard to come up with a really good call to action. And then, by God, wherever you send them, it better match what was talked about in the email. I've seen that happen using amazing email copy. And then you go to a landing page for the brand, and then the whole story completely changes. And then the person goes, did I go to the wrong place? So all that good work can then be lost. So email itself is an effective channel, but email's most often done terribly. So we all have really negative associations with it. I think a lot of us think that video is the way to go, right? Because we like to watch a lot of video content. When you live in a 2021 where we have short attention spans because we're exposed to so much content, it just feels like I can't read another thing. I just want something simple to digest. A video sounds appealing, but have you watched lots of horrible marketing videos? I have. I do every single day. And I'm like, who hired these people to create these videos? They're terrible. It's because it's not the video. Video has all this potential, but again, video can be just as bad as email. It really comes down to why the hell did you create this? Who are you speaking to, and for what purpose? So much of it really just comes down to execution. Is it thoughtful? Is there a reason why you're doing this? But I will say that, yes, obviously video is on the upswing. I would still push for email because, like I was telling you earlier about relationship marketing being kind of like the framework we all want to use for like being successful with marketing these days. Email is really good because as you choose to engage with things, I know that, Dimitri responded positively. That helps me know a little bit more about you. So it builds my internal algorithm of understanding who you are as a type of customer, what kind of content resonates with you. I can then take all that information and get more and more focused on giving you the content I think you like, the content that you will interact with. Email is a great tool for adaptive learning, using the data to change the content for specific niches of people who want different type of experiences with the brand. But you could do that. You can make that work with almost any channel. I think another one that people hate on is display ads. Everyone's like, oh, I hate banner ads. I never, ever click on a banner ad. They're useless. But I think what a lot of people are missing is that the banner ad is not necessarily successful because you click on it. The banner ad is successful because you see 20 ads a day from Verizon. And if you see 20 ads a day for, I don't know, 3 years in a row, you've got that's a couple thousand impressions. It starts to form subconsciously in your mind a reminder that Verizon is a leading telephone operator, a telephone carrier. And it makes you feel it's kind of valid for me to pay premium pricing for that over T-Mobile. So that's why you see lots and lots of advertising for phone carriers. That's why you see lots of advertising for banks. There's so much competition between these major companies that have deep pockets, and they want to subconsciously keep reinforcing we are the dominant player in that field. So while I never clicked on those ads, when we scroll by and we see the logo, subconsciously we're getting reminders of the how that brand is in a leadership position. And there's a lot of brand research that shows evidence that does have a strong impact on the choices we make about where we go and why people continue to pay a premium for brands that might not really be that different from other competitors.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. But I still have some other questions about your other channels I want to ask you by. So
Okay,
the
go ahead.
first one is I didn't see much of the professors talking about it yet. I'm just starting. But what do you think about the audio channel? Because it seems like the podcasts are on the rise, and general attention to audio is growing. And after you're done with that, just what do you think about social media and how to connect with people on social media?
Sure. So audio streaming is huge. I love it. I think first of all, radio itself is not dead. I can't stand listening to the radio because it seems like there's so many ads and it feels very intrusive. So for me, listening to the radio in the car drives me insane. But I think streaming audio is enormous, enormous potential. And here's the reason why. It's not only that audio has shifted away from just being music consumption, but it's more about podcasts. If you think about it, every podcast itself can be a marketing platform, right? If I'm starting up a business, I create a podcast for this. I'm encouraging people to come back on a repeat basis and hear more and more stories about who we are, how we operate, what interests us that matches what interests you. So it's in an invitation to come be a community with the brand. And it's got a subscription basis to it, right? Even if you don't have to pay for anything. If I'm opting in for a subscription, I'm basically opting in to get marketing messages sent to me every week or every other week or maybe every other day, depending on how frequently that audio content is put out there. I think that, remember I was talking earlier about the customer journey? This audio works brilliantly because now you're having people kind of make a commitment. They're building a habit with your audio content. So I think it's extremely powerful. Social media, of course, is huge. We all spend time on social media. We may complain about it. We may say, "Ugh, social media is such a waste of time. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to be part of that. I'm going to get rid of my Facebook account." I hear that all the time from students. I hear it from adults. And you know what? Some of them actually do drop off, and then about 6 months later, they come back on again. And the reason why is because, in a lot of ways, Facebook has become a hub. It's the place where you will find people that you work with, your family that's close, your family that's really distant and you don't want to see in person, ex-coworkers who otherwise you would never be in touch with. Facebook is kind of the place where everybody is, and it may not be the ideal situation. It may not be the best iteration of a social media platform, but it's dominant, and it's where a lot of people are. And so it makes a lot of sense to think about doing marketing there. You don't have to love the platform, but I guarantee people are receiving content marketing that is put out there. Less so the advertisements. I think we've gotten good about scrolling past banner ads and identifying that's paid content. I don't want to look at that. That's paid. I don't want to look at that. But organic content, like the content marketing that's put on a brand's page and then is pushed out into people's timelines because lots of their consumer fans are liking it, that is really working very well at getting people to experience brands.
Thank you. I would love to continue talking about marketing, honestly, but there is one other thing that we want to touch today. And it's actually what probably most of the people noticed already is your exceptional speaking and communication skills. And we know that there is a program at Bellevue College that you're a coordinator of called DECA. Can you tell us more about that and how it can help us build our communication skills and what actually it is and how it works?
So DECA is an extracurricular activity. It's like a sport. I mean, it's not athletic in any way, but it is a intercollegiate competitive activity. So we have a team that competes against a team from Wazoo, a team from UW, a team from Seattle U, a team from Western. We go to competitions where our team will compete against other teams. It's like track and field. It's not so much like a football where it's one team against another, but it's track and field in the sense that you have like 25 different events. You can choose to compete in any one of them. And then you go and do case study competition or a prepared speech competition. So the case study one would be, say like I want to do international marketing. You and a partner would get a case study. You get an hour to look at this case study, and it's like a one page of a problem. Like you work at a company and your product is found to be defective. Like how do you put together a messaging plan to reassure consumers that you're going to get your act together and get the product fixed and that you can be trusted moving forward. And you're doing this in Japan. So it forces you to kind of work under pressure. You figure out solutions to problems. And that is really good because even though it's testing your marketing knowledge and your international knowledge, what it's really testing at the core, the most important part, is your ability to perform under pressure. You only have an hour. And how good are you at sizing up the problem, being able to articulate what that problem is to the judge, and then coming in with a solution to that? So this is really common for business marketing students. We do case studies because case studies helps us imagine what if scenarios. And in the DECA environment, you're doing it under the pressure of time. You only get an hour to come up with your best approach to this. So we care a lot about the content and what is your thinking? How do you organize your ideas? But obviously another part of the competition is how well do I sell myself? How well do I pitch my thoughts and ideas to the judge? So a big part of what you're working on also is public speaking skills. It's your ability to be persuasive, not just here's a fact, but really like, here's why we need to take this action. And I think most student, if you're paying attention to the world, we know the way that we present ourselves is a huge part of how we get jobs. It's a huge part of how we get promotions. It's a big part of how we make friends and actually just connect with other people in the world. We all are brands, whether we like it or not. I mean, it feels kind of icky. It feels kind of consumerish, but the truth is in a world where everybody's kind of like online and they're constantly crafting communications about who they are, we are all presenting ourselves to others and hoping that people see the value in wanting to work with us, to hire us, or just to be our friend, to marry us. And I mean, there's all this salesmanship going on, right? So part of what you're doing there is just kind of learning how to finesse that and really express yourself in a way that's assertive and yet authentic. And I think for a lot of us, it's hard to be a great speaker and yet still seem authentic and down to earth. And that's a skill that you really want to work on, because it's going to make such a tremendous difference on the salary at which you get paid. Or if you're a startup business, whether your business gets funding and whether people want to be your customer, because you have to be engaging, right? You want people to want to work with you. They want to say, I really like Nada. She seems really professional. That's who I want to do business with. And so you're practicing those skills. And I can't tell you enough what a difference competing on DECA has done for some of the graduates of my program. When I look at the amount of money that my graduates are who did DECA versus the ones who didn't do DECA, it's pretty sizable. I'm seeing maybe a $50,000 difference in how much more they're making. I recently had a student graduate from our program who made over $200,000 as a starting salary at Amazon. I mean, that's a good money to come out of a Bellevue College program. And I know that his time on the DECA team really made a huge difference in him going through that loop interview at Amazon and being able to handle whatever crazy questions they threw at him. So, join DECA. It's good for you.
Well, if only I could know how to join that.
You could send me an email. That's all you got to do. Send me an email. Let's talk about it. There is also a website just called bellevuedeca.com. And I will tell you, it's not the greatest website because we allow our student members to kind of control the website so they can practice building web and thinking about what's involved in the back end of running WordPress. And so, yeah, we have students try it out and then like, oh, it's too much work, I'm disappearing. But it's a learning experience. But you will find some basic information there, so you might want to check out the website. But I think the best way is just come talk to me. Send me an email and let's talk about DECA.
Okay, and my last question before we go to open Q&A is, how does it work? It's all about so many benefits that it can provide, but let's say I'm just a newbie who just joins and I don't really believe I can compete with people who are already experienced. Does DECA provide any support? How does it work?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, look, this is extra, right? This is not in your class. This is like it's like joining a club. You guys are here for this club on a Friday. You could be doing something else, but you chose to come here because you feel like you're learning something and you're being part of a community and you're getting some support. It's the same way with DECA. You come to a coaching session, you work with a coach, and they will, I have people that are amazing right from the beginning, and I have people that are terrified to speak and do not want to speak at all. And it's some of those students I will probably never get to being a national champion. But you know what? If they're seeing some growth, if they're feeling good about the experience, if it's time well spent for them, it's still a win, right? You can come into it and you can expect whatever you want out of it. Some people are highly competitive and they want to go to nationals and they want to win a trophy. They want to put that on their resume. I'm a national champion. This year we had 3 national champions. And we've been the top school in the country now for 7 years. But you can also just come to the team and just say, like, I just want to try it out. I just want to get better at my speaking because I know it's going to help me get a job. And that's a good thing. Or maybe someone says, I want to have some activity on my resume because I'm planning to transfer to UW. And I would like to be able to say, hey, I did something extra. I went the extra mile. I'm trying something out. And that's okay. Whatever you want to get out of it is fine. You just come to us and tell us, like, here's what my goals are. Here's the amount of time I'm willing to put in. Because some people put in a lot of time. Some people say, I want to do the minimum work. You just be honest about what you want to get out of it, and we'll work with you.
Okay, thank you so much, Kyle, for answering all of our questions. So
Yeah.
Everybody, just feel free to raise your hand if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question. I see we have some questions in the chat already, so you have two options, guys. Either raise your hand and we'll give you an option to unmute, or you can just put your question into the chat and we'll read it out loud for you. So the question that we have in the chat is from Kay. Kay asks, what is the one thing you know now and that you wish you knew earlier?
When I was young, in college, and even when I was still in graduate school, I knew I wanted to be successful. I didn't want to necessarily be rich, but I knew I wanted to be successful. I wanted to feel I'm a competitive person by nature, and I knew I wanted to be really good at whatever it is I was doing. And I have been pretty successful most of my career. But what I didn't accept, and probably until I was in my mid 20s, probably around 26 or so, I mean, it took me too long. I didn't realize the importance of networking. And it's really so stupid because my mother is an exceptional networker. She ran an art gallery, and she always would tell me when I was a kid, when I was in junior high, when I was in high school, when I was in college, she said, "You need to network." And for me, it felt like a chore. It's like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go shake people's hands just for the sake of shaking hands. I don't want to exchange business cards and just go through this. What felt to me very artificial. It felt to me very forced, and I was resentful of it. But as I began to as I was really thinking about my career path, and I was trying to think, how do I move up and how do I get people to see my potential and what I can bring to the table, I began to realize just how important it is that the way people see you is going to shape whether they want to open doors for you or they want to keep you at a distance. People, I mean, human beings and, even animal species that are more advanced, they form tribes, right? We form into little groups and we find fault with each other and say, well, that tribe is doing this and I don't want to be part of that tribe. And we find reasons to create barriers between us. And part of that is, at least in the animal kingdom, is because you band together as a tribe, you will less likely to get attacked and killed, or your shelter is stolen away from you by another tribe of animals. In humans, we do it because I think we need a lot of validation. We need to feel like we have purpose as people. Okay, so you know that we want to make sure that we're in a group of people that are like-minded. What I didn't understand when I was young is that maybe these people I'll be shaking hands with and trying to network with are not going to be my best friends. Maybe they're not people that that's who I want to go hang out with and have dinner. But there ought to be some way I can find a way in and find something interesting to learn from them. There ought to be some way that I can create a positive impression of myself so they're open to thinking about me in the future. I was so quick to I think make assumptions about people and close myself off unless it was my group of friends that I really felt comfortable with. And I didn't realize what an impact that was having on my career path. And when I became more open-minded about that and I began to realize, I don't need to understand everyone's backstory. I don't need to love shaking hands with strangers. And there are times when you do want to draw a line and said, no, I can tell right now I do not want to associate with that person because there's something about it I can tell. They're toxic, and that's just a no-go. But when I had that more openness, it really changed how my career trajectory was changing. I was advancing a lot more quickly when I was open-minded to trying to see what the value was in different people in an organization. And some of the people that I initially thought were great turned out to be terrible coworkers who did nothing. And then some of the people that I thought oh, that person's so not dynamic, they were the hardest workers. And then you quickly realize okay, I don't care if that person is not dynamic. They get their stuff done. And that's who I want on my team. That's who I want to be allies with. So sorry that was a long answer, Kay, but I think that is the number one thing I really wish I had figured out sooner.
Thank you, Kyle, for answering this question. Yeah, Kay also says, thank you for the answer. So Yeah, we have a question from Ming. He asked about WordPress. It probably was the question about the website and the students working on the website. Are they using WordPress?
So were you just asking what WordPress is, Ming, or what? Or what did you want to know more about?
I know WordPress. I know. I'm using to build my own website right now. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you guys using the DECA website also use WordPress?
Yeah, for the Bellevue DACA website, they use WordPress. Yep, that's a pretty standard tool, and it's what we kind of teach in our front end design classes at Bellevue. It's a pretty standard thing that people use for a lot of website design. So yeah,
Oh, I saw the WordPress because WordPress is free, so I think only for like personal like a company you can use like other stuff to build a website. But what right? No.
I'm confused by the question.
Because WordPress is free, you know. I so surprised the DACA, the school they also using WordPress. I so surprised.
Well, WordPress itself may be free, but then you often end up buying little add-ins, right? You buy all kinds of little tools that give you additional WordPress functionality. And then, of course, you need a hosting solution that costs money. And then you might want to buy a domain like bellevuedeca.com. That costs money. So, yeah, rarely are things free in life. It starts off free, but there's always costs once you start digging in a little deeper.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Sorry. Okay. So my question is, so it's a pretty practical question. So let's say I want to have a business and I want my business to be about affiliate marketing, right? So I want to reach my audience with social media. So how would I reach my audience with social media? So create relationship marketing with an organic reach at the beginning.
So there's a lot of layers to that question. I'm going to try to answer it as quickly as I can. The first thing I would say is this: you can make money doing affiliate marketing, but far less than you used to be able to. And the reason why is so many more people are doing it, and websites are paying less money as a bounty for you bringing them traffic. It doesn't mean it's not worthwhile to do, but I would first challenge you to say, is your business just about being an affiliate, or is there something more to it? I would encourage you to think about, maybe I have a topic I'm really passionate about, or it's a topic I'm kind of passionate about, but I know that tons of other people are passionate about it, so there's a lot of potential money to be made. And what you are going to do is you're going to answer questions about it. You're going to build content around that topic that has real value. And if that's your business and you say, and the revenue part of the revenue model is I'm going to drive traffic from that content site to other people that want that audience to make money. Okay, that's great. But you see, the key there, Nada, is not that I'm going to be an affiliate marketer, but rather I have a vision of being a content hub that has meaningful value around a topic that has a lot of interest to a lot of people. And then I would say the next thing is expand your revenue model from not just being affiliate marketing, but also think of other ways that you can, generate profit. And I would say things like, well, is it possible to come up with like partnerships with vendors that are in that space? Is it possible to have content that's so good that maybe it could be acquired by a larger content company that charges like subscription model for content? Is it possible that you can turn that into making yourself an influencer in that space? There's lots of different ways you could create additional revenue around that. And then, of course, all of those additional revenue things I'm talking about. So the next question I think you were asking about, how does social media come into that? That's really what it comes down to, is you're figuring out the different ways you're going to make money around it. You need to think about putting content out to social media, which has a dearth of good content. There's so much stuff on the web, but there's not that much amazing content that people want to go seek out. So if you can create that high quality content and then you can get that into social media where there's a lot of people, that's how they can discover you, navigate away from the social media to your hub, whether it's a website, a blog, or maybe your hub is in the social media itself. A lot of people use now Facebook as their de facto website because it feels more authentic and it feels more conversational than a static website. So there's a lot of different ways you can use social around that. But I think the bigger picture is, why do I exist? What am I willing to do? And how am I going to drive revenue around it? And that's a complicated and constantly evolving question, right? Because you figure it out this year and then it's going to change next year because everything keeps changing. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur and work around that, you have to be willing to keep growing and evolving because it won't stop. It will not change.
Definitely. Thank you so much for answering this question. It's kind of like the strategy, like the 5 highlights. I think like 4 highlights for a content that people really like. So like a content that people are really interested about, and then 1 highlight about selling.
Yes, absolutely. Because if your whole thing is just constantly about the revenue, guess what? It's not going to resonate with your audience. They're not going to come back. They're not going to want to revisit you because they're going to feel like, oh my God, Nada's just constantly hitting me over the head. Bye, bye, bye. It's not going to feel authentic. It's probably not going to give them much of any value. So why would they come back? So it really, you need to give them at least that 80% quality content that makes them open to hearing your recommendations of going to an affiliate site or to talking to one of your partners or why they should check out your influencer videos or whatever it is that you've figured out as your next revenue option. And that's hard. It's hard work. Those people that are really successful influencers, some of those lucky bastards just got away with it. But most of them have done a lot of really thoughtful consideration of like, what content do people want? Now, personally, I'm shocked and amazed at some of the garbage that people do want, but it is what they want because you look at the number of followers and you're like, oh my God, people like this stuff. But hey, you know what? Those entrepreneurial influencers have figured out a way to give people what they want and turn a couple bucks, a couple thousand or million. It's frightening how much money's happening in that space.
Well, thank you so much for answering this question. Thank you.
You bet. I know we're running out of time, but if any of you got like any follow-up questions that you didn't get a chance to ask me in the call, you are free to reach out to me by email, and I'm happy to either try to answer it by email or I can set up a call with you. And I'm always happy to come back and visit your group again if you have questions for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. So I can put Kyle's email to the chat, but while I do that, Kyle, can I please have one last question, if that's okay for you?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to ask this question, but I forgot because of my terrible memory, but I remember that this time. So how would you, can you describe the perfect email, how it should look like, and how to connect to the audience through the email?
The perfect email is not a single email. It's a series of emails. It is also a series of emails that has true value. Each one in the series need to actually give me something that made it worth my while to read. Because as soon as I get to the one that didn't provide me with value, is not only getting deleted, but it's also closing my mind to being receptive to the next email you're getting. So every single time you're sending me something, there ought to be something in there that's meaningful value. And that's a hard task, right? It's really hard for us to keep coming up with good stuff. So one of the things I would say to be successful at this, and not just about email, but of any content marketing, where we're not using paid channels, but we're trying to create stuff ourselves. But when we're doing content marketing, you really want to map out a content calendar, like an editorial calendar, where you're imagining ahead of time, what is the series of events? Like, we're going to do an email every 3 days. And what's the basic gist of what should be in each email? When I map out that journey ahead of time, I'm much more likely to create content that actually has a purpose, rather than just a content like, you have to come and do this. Join us for this. Because then it just feels like it's self-serving. And I will tell you, most emails I get feel very self-serving on the part of the brand. So I know that's not maybe the answer you wanted because you're looking for this template. Like, hey, what are the 5 things I need to say, Kyle? There is no such template, is there? But I do believe it has to be a series, and each step in that series needs to provide value. And that alone is going to be plenty challenging for you just to do that. So good luck with your email marketing, WG.
Yeah, thank you. I just put the Kyle's email into the chat, so guys, please feel free to connect with Kyle after the meeting if you want to know more about DECA or if you have any other follow-up questions. And Kyle, I know I told you one last question, but we just received a question to the chat.
Okay.
Do you have time to answer that?
What kind of data analysis do you do in marketing to determine whether a product is good or not? Well, that's a great question. So I am guessing what you're talking about more, Ramon, is more on the product side. So like when you're doing analysis to figure out whether the product actually has interest in the first place and whether people like features that are offered or the packaging of it. So in that case, if I'm doing like product ideation type research, I would usually start with doing like simple quantitative surveys where I make some assumptions. I would try to have no more than 10 questions, and I would try to get people to kind of say, on a scale of 1 to 5, what do you feel about this, this, because I should have some basic ideas of what I think people feel or think, and I'm trying to clarify that with numbers, and that can help. And if I'm doing that, I need to get a pretty large sample size, right? Because there's going to be differences between people, and I'm hopefully able to identify some personal characteristics about the different people that are filling out the survey, so I can see if there might be some differences between different groups. And that can help me then think, okay, I get it. I need to target not just to millennials because that's too specific of a group, but I'm looking for people in their late 20s who are making over $60,000 a year. That's a much more specific target demographic. And people that live in the greater King County area, the more I can start narrowing down, that'd be great. And even better than looking at the demographic information is if I can get some info about like their usage, about like how do you use this product, because that's far more illuminating than just looking at demographic or geographic information. So that's the first part. But then after I do that kind of simplistic quantitative data, I would probably want to shift more into doing like a focus group or an in-depth interview with a much smaller group of people. So I could start getting those qualitative answers. And by this point, my just general assumptions can be much more fleshed out, much more detailed, and say, if this product had this feature instead, what kind of impact would that have on the way you think about it and whether it's the right product for you? But I think it's always better that you have that first foundational, larger set of quantitative data to kind of narrow your focus, and then use the qualitative only when you really are getting stuck at the point. Like, the only way I'm really going to dig deeper on this is if I can ask some deep questions. And then, of course, once the product goes out into market, that's the best kind of testing whatsoever, because then it's not theoretical, then it's actual based on usage. And so I wouldn't just, in that case, not just look at sales data, like whether sales going up is indicators of whatever change you made on the product is right. But I would also do things like an ethnography where I go out and I observe how do people engage with our product. I would try to want to observe the interactions and try to figure out like what are future questions I could ask, and that will help with like product extensions or the evolution of the product, so it will change over time to match what consumers want. I don't know if this is what you were looking for, but that's the kind of research that realistically we would do for clients. It wasn't so much that I was building complex predictive models, but really a lot of it was more just asking a simple survey question and then kind of observing how it is behaving in market and seeing if I can either test out questions that I have or if it opens the door to new questions that I wasn't thinking about because I just had. thought the way consumer might think about it. It's still really great for us. So come take marketing research, and we can talk about that more. That's a really good question, though, and it's good you're thinking like that, because not enough people do that kind of research, and it is what makes or breaks your business. Well, again, this is a really great conversation for me. I'm glad you guys invited me, and I'm happy to talk with anybody more if you got questions.
All right, thank you, Kyle, so much for joining us today. It feels like hour is not nearly enough to even introduce you. So we'll explore opportunities to bring you one more or multiple times more back. So thank you so much for finding time to join.
Come back in the fall if you like. Just let me know.
Yes, we would love for you to come back. 1 hour is not enough. I agree.
Okay. You guys have a great weekend. Thanks for joining.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.
Today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. By the way, do we want to... Well, we have some... Well, never mind, actually. Okay. People already left. I just wanted to talk about who we have next weekend. I always